Choose for Africa.
Okay, so I'm gonna teach you how to memorize and visualize without looking at the board, and I'm gonna teach you how you can use memory in the chess game, all right? Okay. So we're gonna start with the rook. Okay, the rook moves horizontally and vertical. So how many squares can it move to? Show me the squares that it can move to.
Can move
No,
one,
yeah, 2, 3,
4, 5, 6, 7.
and all of them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Count from 7.
From here.
Yeah, from 7, yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
So how many squares?
14 squares.
14 squares. Okay, so now, okay, if I, without the rook now, all right? If I put my rook on, this is E on E5. So imagine the rook is on E5, how many squares can it move to? Yeah.
4 squares.
Okay, yes.
7 squares.
Okay, it's on E4, all, count all squares. Okay, it's on E5, yeah?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, yeah?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Still on 7. How many squares?
14 squares.
14 squares, so okay. Place the pawns for me. No, place the pawns where they move. It's on E5. Place, the rook is on E5. Yeah, place where the pawn can move. Place the pawn. The rook is on E5. There's the rook. Now, without the rook, it's on E5, and place the pawns. You place the pawns like it moves this way, okay? And also move that way. All right. So now we imagine the rook is on C7, eh?
Yes.
C7. So I'm going to remove the rook. It's on C7. How many squares can the rook move to?
1, 2, 14 squares.
14 squares. Can you place the pawns? Okay. All right. Nice. Now I press them. Now I place it all vertical. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Nice. So now, how many times, if the rook is on H8, can it move to A1? How can the rook move from H8 to A1? No, I'm saying like how can it move? How many times? How long does it take to move to A1? Show me which way.
This way.
And that way. And this way and that way. Nice. Okay, so now imagine the rook is on H5 and we need to go to A8. Ne? How many times will it take you to move to A8? It's on H5.
2 times.
2 times. And name the square. How will it move?
This way.
No, name the square. It's on H5. The rook is on H5. And name it.
How many?
Yeah, like the rook moves to H8, then it moves to A8. Okay. So, right. So let's do it again. It's on H5.
The rook moves to H8 and it moves to A8.
Okay, so there's another way. Which is the way? Yeah.
From H5, then A5.
Yeah, then.
Then come to A8.
Okay, now please don't use hands, okay? So now we're gonna use without using hands, and without using pawns, okay? So I'm gonna place the rook again. My rook is on D2. I want my rook to move to H8. So we're not using hands, we're not using pieces now. So how will it move? It's on D2. The rook is on D2. So this is D, this is 2. The rook is there.
The rook will first move to H2 and then return to H8.
H2. Okay, which other way?
From D2, then comes here to D1 and then H8.
D8, D8,
D8.
and then moves to H8. Okay. So now I'm gonna put the board into half. Okay. It's half. The board is half now. Okay. So imagine our rook is on B2. Okay. B2. It needs to go to H8. So how will it move? It's on B2.
It will move 2 times.
Yeah, 2 times. How will it move?
It will move, it will turn right.
Yeah, turn right and left is. But remember, we name the squares.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
It will move from B2 to H2 and then H8.
Thank you. From B2 to move to BH2 to H8. And there's another way.
it will move from B2 to A1. No, it's B2 to B8. And
Okay.
it goes to-
Yes. B2 to B8 and to H8. All right. Nice. So now I'm going to give you these numbers 1 to 4. So now we don't have 8. Imagine our rook is on C1. It needs to move to A8.
The rook will move to A1 and it will move to A8.
8. Yes. That's what's the next move again. The next way.
The rook will move to,
It's on C1.
it's on C1.
Yeah.
And then move from
It has to move two ways. 2 ways. It needs to go to A8.
C1.
Yes.
Then goes to C8.
Yes.
Then it's A1.
A1. Nice. Now we don't have the board. It's blank. Remember, you had a half board and you had to do. Now we have no board at all. Okay. So now, imagine the rook. It's on E4, and then it needs to move to A1. How will it move? E4 to A1.
Okay.
Yeah.
The rook will
It
move.
moved 2 times, yeah? Okay.
The rook will move from E4 to E1
Okay.
and then it goes to A1.
Okay, from E1 to A1. What's the next way?
Said it's
No, it's on E4. Yeah.
then turn to H4.
It's going back. So it needs to go to A1. It's on E.
Goes to E1.
Okay, he said E1 and A1. So there's another way, help her.
From C4 to
No, from E4.
E4 to A1. It goes to E1 and it goes to A1.
Yes, said that before. And she said it. Help her, there's another way as well.
Oh, okay. It goes to A4.
Thank
and
you.
It goes to A1.
A1. All right, so let's prove that one. E4, it goes to A4, A1, and E1 to A1. Okay, now, so now we've done the rook, okay? So now you understand how the rook moves and how to do it without visualizing it, okay? So now we're going for the next pieces. The knight. All right, so the knight is on d4. So how many times will the knight move if it's on d4?
To where?
If it's on d4, how many times will it move from d4? How many squares? Like remember the rook, it moved 14 squares. How many squares? How many? Place the pawns. No, the knight. Do you know how the knight moves?
Yes.
Yeah, so move the knight for me. Move it again. Move it again. Place the pawn where you move the knight. Place the pawn where you move the knight. Yes, move it again. Okay, yeah. Yes. Yibo. 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 Yes. Nice. So, remember, so how many squares can it move to?
8 squares.
8 squares. So in the set, I'll move to 8 squares. So please place the pawns for me as well. Okay. Okay. So how many squares?
8 squares.
All right, it's fine. So the knight in the corner, how many squares will it move to? Place the pawns. Only 2 squares, ne? It's in the corner of the edge, it moves 2 squares. Okay. Outside the corner of the edge, how many squares?
It moves 4 squares.
4 squares. So right in the middle of the edge, how many squares? Also 4 squares. So where is when the knight is powerful?
On the middle of the board.
On the middle of the ball. It's powerful, so it can control how many squares?
8 squares.
8 squares. Okay, fine. So now we're doing the imagination game now. Okay, so let's train again. Visualize. Visualize first. Place the pawns. Place the pawns. Nice. Nice. Okay. Nice. So now you can see, when you see it, it's easy. But let's try it without visualizing it. So imagine again, our knight is on F3. So place the pawns for me. It's on F3. Help her, don't worry. It's on F3, ne? Place the pawns. Now I'm with this. Yeah, now I'm with this. No, the knight is on F3, yeah? Okay, nice. Okay, one more example. The knight is on C2. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Nice. So understand how the knight moves. So now I'm gonna place my knight on A1. Yeah? I want my knight to go to H8. So can you move the knight to H8 by using pawns? It's on A1. I need to move it to H8. Okay.
Yes. How can I do this?
Okay. Okay. Let me just give you probably 2 points. You're on the right track, so you move it there, there, and there. So how many times?
6 times.
6 times, okay. So you can either go there, there, or there, there, or there, here, or here, there, okay? And it's exactly the same, all right? Just to get that. So now, 6 times, if our knight moves to the H8, né? Okay. So now, imagine the knight is on H8. It needs to move to A1. Place the pawns. All right, fine. So now, make sure you are looking at the board, né? Okay. So it's easy when you place. So now we're gonna use R4 for the knight. It's half. Our knight is on A8. It is to move to H1. Okay. Using the half ball. Knight is on A8. Move the knight. Remember? No, don't use your hands. Place, when you can place the underport. If you can place. Place the pawns, yeah? Okay. Yeah. Okay, now you get to the point. There's no chess set, né? You need to tell me the square. The square name. And up until to H8.
F6.
Hold on. F6. This is F6. You're moving to F6. So please, you're moving to F6.
No, I'm not moving to F6.
You're not moving to F6. Okay.
F4.
7.
Next 7. E7 is there.
F4.
Okay. So F4 will be right there. Okay. Yeah, it moves to F4.
Moves to H3.
F4 to H3. Okay.
It moves to
Okay.
it moves
It's
to
on H3.
yes.
Okay.
It moves to F2.
F2, yeah.
And moves to H1.
H1. Thank you. So let's prove that right. So it moved to F4, H. Can it move to H3?
They say H2.
H4. Let's say it's F4, H3, F2, and
H1.
H1. So It's quite right. All right. Let's use another half of our board. Now we have 1, we don't have 5 and 8. So again, the knight needs to move from A1 to H8. It's on A1.
It has to move 8 times.
I don't know. Do you remember when it was on A1, how many times did it move to H8? How many times did it move?
6 times.
Yeah, 6 times. So you must know you have to move 6 times. So now you've used up 2.
F5.
So you're moving from E
3
to,
F5.
okay, to F5, yeah.
Move it to
G7.
yeah.
F5. It's on F5.
To H2.
No, to H2 is here. I know my number. These are the numbers. H2 is there.
7.
So it needs to go to H.
7.
It needs to go to H.
H7.
It needs to go to H.
4.
No, I'm saying the knight needs to, from A1 needs to go to H bar.
H1.
H8.
H8.
So why are you moving it to H7? It needs to go to H8. So 8. So where's the pawn? Where's the knight now?
F5.
It's on F5. Yeah.
G7.
F5 to G7. Okay.
H2.
We still have H2.
H.
You can't go to H2. Okay, let's start from F5 again. It's on F5. What comes after 5? Number 6. So the knight needs to jump 6, okay?
It's G6.
And move to 7.
And move to 7.
And when you move to 7, it has to be placed between G and
H.
G and
F.
aren't you on F? G and E. Between those two. You have to place it between those two. If you jump that number. And if you're going horizontally, you jump an alphabet, it's on F, you jump G, it needs to be placed on H. Yeah. And it jumps twice.
Okay.
Yeah, it jumps the first alphabet will be G.
H8.
No, it can't go because look, how many times? 1, 2, 3. It can't go to H8. Remember, it's 1.
H.
It's 1. How many times does it go to H8? 6 times.
times.
Yeah, so you've used 1, 2, 3, the 4 times, okay?
Okay.
It's on
F5
F5.
G7.
F5.
G.
F5 for G7, yeah.
Then it's H8.
It can't be H8. G7 is next to H8. It needs to jump.
Okay, which means it goes to G from, G,
H.
from G5.
Yeah.
G7.
Goes,
G7.
goes to
6.
2. G. 2.
How many moves already? How many moves did you use?
5. 4.
So you've used 4 moves. There's
4
2 more
moves.
moves.
Goes to G7.
F8. No. F7.
Okay, let's not guess. Let's just do it. Let's just show you. Okay, we said that it's on F.
5.
F5. Okay. Yeah, it's on F5. So
After G7.
yeah, you guys are putting it on G7. Can it move to G7? It moved to G7. But can you get to H8? No. So where do you move it from F5?
And F5 to E7.
E7. Yeah.
To G6.
G6. Yeah.
H8.
H8. So now, the bishop can move how many squares?
7 squares.
Okay, calculate which squares?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so just name the squares when you calculate, okay? It's
H8, G7, F6, E5, D4, C3, E2.
B2, okay. When it's on A8, how many squares?
7 squares.
Yeah, name the squares.
Starting from me.
Start from wherever you want to start.
B2, C3, D4,
B2,
B7, C6, D5, E4, C, F3, C2.
and H1, don't worry, we'll get the hang of it. Okay, so it's 7 times. If I put my bishop on D5, how many squares? Just calculate the number, the total number.
14 squares.
How many? 13, so you don't count the one that's standing on, eh? Okay, so you see how many? 13 squares. If the bishop is on C1, how many squares?
8 squares.
7
Calculate, please. Calculate, all right. If it's on F1, 7 squares. And let's say the last one is on E6.
11 squares.
Okay, 11 squares. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. All right. Okay, so now, how many times does it take for a bishop from A1 to reach A8, H8?
7 squares.
No, how many times?
One time.
One time, one move, okay? So if the bishop moves from A1 to H8, it moves once only. Boom. Okay, so how many times will the bishop move from E1 to D8?
2 times.
Okay, show me which ways. 2 times, yeah. Nice. And which other way? Nice. Okay, so now the bishop is easy. So you're going to imagine our bishop is on H4 and it needs to move to A3. Yeah, it's an H4 and moves to an A3. The bishop is on H4.
It moves 2 times.
Yeah, so which way?
From H4 to E2, E7.
Okay,
And goes to
H3, no?
H3.
Okay, so did you get that one? From? Bishop from H?
H4,
Yeah. To?
A3.
No, it can't go to A3. So it moves from H4. Yeah, from H4 to A.
F2.
No. The bishop moves from H4. It needs to go to A3.
To E7.
It moves from H4 to E7 first. That's the first move. And it moves from E7 to
A3.
A3. Bless you. Okay, so remember it's a full board. Now we're going half board. So now our bishop is on D7. It needs to move to H5. So how many times will it move?
2 times.
2 times. So you name the first one.
from D7
Yeah.
to E8
Yeah.
to H5.
To H5. So which is the other one?
From D7 to G6 to A5.
This is G6, D7. Can't go.
G4.
Okay. It needs goes to G4 and
H5.
then H5. All right. Turning the board around again, okay? So now our bishop is on C1. It needs to go to D7. Yeah.
Moves from C1
Okay.
to F4 and to
F4. Remember, it needs to go to D7. Which line connects with D7? No. First of all, the bishop is on white. Okay. Yeah, it's on C1.
It's on C1.
Yeah.
C or D1.
It's on C. I mean D1, sorry.
D1. Moves from D1 to A4 and to
It needs to go to D7. Okay? D7.
It moves from
D7. You need to calculate the board. Okay.
yes, it moves from D1 to H5.
It can't move to H5.
D1 to
H5, okay?
G4.
H5?
H5 to
Yeah, no, not G5. H5?
H5 to D7.
Okay. So, from D7, so where's D? Tell me where's D? This is D. So, it's white, black, white, black, white, black, white, black. So, which number connects with 7? It's on D1. So, D1 connects with white. It's 7. 7 and 1. 1, 3, 5, 7. They're all white. Remember, 1, 3, 5, 7. They're all white, okay? So, okay, let's do this. Okay. Do you see now? Which number connects with which number? 1, 3, 5, 7.
Okay.
Moves from D1
2,
to G4
G4, and
G7.
G7. So it moves how many times?
Two times.
2. So which other way can it move?
It moves from D1 to
A4
A4
2,
and to D7.
D7. Okay. Tell me which is the worst move that can be done by a rook. It can move to
E6
E6
and E6 and
and E2.
E2. So that's the worst move, okay? So if it moves to E6, it can be captured by knight, and move to
E2.
E2. Okay, tell me the worst move that can be done by a knight.
So count
No, it can be captured by a rook. Which is the worst move?
Goes to
Which is here?
F5.
F5 and
or it goes to B5.
B5. Okay, this is how it goes. It will be taken and taken. All right, fine. So now we're leaving the rook. Imagine the knight is on E5. Which are the two worst moves that can be done by a rook? It's on E5.
Is to come to D3 and D6.
D3 and
D6.
D3 and
D6.
it's on E5, guys. Knight is on e5. Yeah. D3 and
Then
D7.
d7. So you need to calculate, alright? So which is the worst move that can be done by a rook? If the knight is on c5. Yeah. The worst
is
move.
to go to D3
Yeah.
or D7.
d7. Okay. Now the knight. Imagine our rook is on a4. Okay. So, which is the worst move that can be done by a rook?
Moving from C4
To A4.
To
E4.
e4. Okay. Nice. And the worst move by a knight. In that case, the worst move by a knight. The rook is on.
C4.
It's on a4.
E4.
Yeah.
Is to go to F1.
Okay.
F1
C4.
No. It's on a4.
or B1.
The rook is on a4.
E4. Is to go to C4
Yeah.
or to go to E4.
e4. Okay. Thank you. So now, no knight, no rook. Okay. The rook is on f7 and the knight is on g3. The knight is on g3. So what's the worst move that can be made by a rook?
Is to come
To
G5.
okay, the knight is on g3.
G3.
G3. The rook is on f7. So the worst move that can be done by a rook would move to
F5.
To
f5. Yeah, don't use your hand. Yeah, and
Or F2.
can move to f2.
F1.
The knight is on g3.
F1.
f1. Okay, fine. Thanks. It's an f5 and f1. All right. So imagine the worst move that can be done by a knight if the knight is on c6. The knight is on c6. Where's the knight?
C6.
Yeah, wrong point. c6. And the rook is on e1.
Is to if it goes to C8.
Okay, the rook is on e1. Where's the rook?
E1.
Okay, so the knight is on c6 and the rook is on e1. So what's the worst move that can be made by a knight?
Is to go
To
to
E5.
e5 and
A7.
the rook is on e1. It's e5 and
A7. A8.
e7. The knight is on c6. The rook is on e1. So what's the worst move?
Is to go to E7.
e7 and c5. Okay. The half board again. It's a half board and okay, so now I'm going to do it easy for you. So the knight is on c4, okay, and the rook is on e8. The knight is on c4, the rook is on e8. What's the worst move that can be done by a knight?
Is to rook it goes to E5.
No, done by a knight.
Then by knight.
Yeah, so where would the knight mustn't go to? It's on
Mustn't go
it's
to
on c4. It's on c4.
It mustn't go to E5.
e5 and
E3.
e3. Mustn't go to e5 and e3. Okay, now imagine if the worst move that can be done by a rook, if our knight is on a4 and the rook is on c1. Our knight is on, yeah, our knight is on a4 and our rook is on c1.
If the rook goes to c5,
okay,
or if the rook goes to c3.
c3, nice. Another half board. We're just going to do more example. Okay, imagine the worst move that can be done by a knight. Nah? If our rook is on c5 and the knight is on e3. Our rook is on c5 and the knight is on e3.
So come to C2.
c2 is and
D3.
c2 and
It's not power.
the rook is on c5 and the knight is on e3.
So come to D5.
Okay.
Comes to, if
The rook, where's the rook?
the rook is on e3,
No, where's the rook?
the rook is on
C. The rook is on c5. The knight is on e3. So what's the worst move that can be done by a knight? It go to
c4
c4 and
and c2.
c2. Thank you. Last one. Okay. Imagine our rook is on b7. Okay.
Okay.
And our knight is on, okay, is on c1. Our knight is on c1 and then the rook is on b7. Yeah. What's the worst move that can be done by the rook? Yeah.
If the rook comes to b3
It's
or
on c1. Our knight is on c1 and the rook is on c7. 1 point.
c1,
Yeah. And our rook is on b7.
if it comes to b3,
Our knight on c1. Our knight is on c1 and our rook is on b7.
D5.
d7,
The knight is on c1. b7. And then the rook is on b.
7,
So where can it move to? The wrong move will be
b1,
b.
3.
b3. Thank you. So just want to make sure you know that. All right. No chess sets. So now we have to imagine. Okay. Comfortable? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, just 2 examples, then we're done. Okay. So we're going to imagine again. Our rook is on h8. h8 and let's see, our knight is on g1. What's the worst move that can be done by the rook?
If it goes to h3,
h3 and do you understand? Because the knight is on g1 and the rook moves to h3. Remember, the knight moves 2 steps and the side. All right, then. Thank you very much for the time you gave me. All right.